Welcome to the Work, Wealth, and Travel podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, and this podcast is your guide to start creating a lifestyle by design. From entrepreneurship, money and finance, tax optimization and residencies, and everything in between. This show highlights the nuances of a true global citizen lifestyle. Let's dive in. Today, I'm going to be discussing a trend that I'm seeing globally for both residency and citizenship. And these trends are negative, and the trajectory that I see them going on are a negative and more difficult for the average person to obtain additional residencies and citizenships. And I've been seeing this well, it's been very prevalent over the last few years, but I've really been seeing this in the last 6 months and less with clients. The difficulty of a lot of these programs is only increasing. And then, of course, with that, the price is continuing to increase while the difficulty is increasing. And so these programs are increasingly becoming unavailable to the general public. Where if you're looking a few years back, even during 2019, 2020, a lot of these programs were easier to obtain. They were a lower price point, sometimes less documentation and just less regulation, which I'm going to dive into today. So, the first trend that I'm seeing is specifically around citizenships. We'll get into the residency trend afterward, which is definitely making it increasingly more difficult for a lot of our clients who are interested in second, third, fourth, or even just a backup residency to obtain residency, especially in Latin America. But in terms of citizenship, you very well likely have seen on the news a great example of this is that the EU pressured the Caribbean islands, and this was a few months back, but they did pressure them to sign documentation saying that they are going to increase their pricing, increase their due diligence, along with a few other key points. And this is not a new trajectory, but I think this example of the EU really making this prevalent and well known and inserting their force with having so much visa-free access that, of course, all countries want access to on their passport. They want their citizens to have this Schengen visa-free travel access within the Schengen area in Europe. But the EU has really been using this against not only the Caribbean, there's other countries as well, but the Caribbean is a great example of this, where they know that they have the power, they have the force, and they have something that they have banded together for so many years. They've created something amazing that all of these countries want, and so they can use that against any of these other countries, and they did exactly that with the Caribbean. I think that this trajectory is very interesting. It's definitely something that I have seen coming for a while just because they do have so much influence and they absolutely know it, but they do have the power to pressure any other country into doing what the EU wants. And so I think that is first a very interesting and somewhat unfortunate trend that we are seeing. Now, do I still think that the Caribbean Citizenship by Investment program is beneficial? I actually have a video I just created. It is linked above, and you can check out that video on my thoughts of if Caribbean citizenship is really still worth it and going into some of the granular details of the program now, because a lot of them have doubled in price just for the main applicant, if not more than doubled in price. In terms of holding EU citizenship, it is, of course, an excellent citizenship to hold. But again, as we always talk about on this channel, you want diversification. So it's great to have diversification options from multiple countries and multiple continents. Really, one or two passports these days is just not going to cut it. Get three, get four. If you can get additional passports, additional citizenships, get one from the EU, have one from a Western country, have one from Latin America. If you can get one from Asia, collect as many as you possibly can because you don't want to be stuck with one citizenship or even with a strong Western country citizenship and then an EU citizenship, which is different, but increasingly becoming more like the Americas. So that is the first trend that I'm really seeing. Again, it's not a new trend. It's something that really became prevalent in, what was it? I think it was April or May when they first announced about the price increase and the additional changes for the citizenship by investment programs for the five islands in the Caribbean. So that's the first point. The second point that I wanted to speak about was residencies. Now, residencies are very interesting. And we help a large majority of our clients to obtain diversification through banking citizenships and, of course, through residencies. And Latin America is a great place to start when you are looking to get into the residency diversification space. A lot of our clients start in Latin America and then will move to Europe or Asia for higher price point residencies, some that lead to citizenship, some that do not. But what I'm seeing in Latin America that is different from past years is that a lot of their residency programs are becoming more difficult to obtain. In the past, you simply had to be making, let's say, $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 in some countries, even in Latin America now, and it usually continues to increase. If they're going to increase it on the first of the year, on January 1st, the price will increase by 10, 20%. So definitely get in on these programs while you can. But I think the important aspect of getting in on these programs while you can is because of the fact that these programs are not simply changing in how much qualifying income you need to receive monthly in order to qualify for residency, but a lot of them are switching to the passive income model, where they want to see that if they are accepting you into their country as a resident, either to live full time or potentially to have a paper residency, to live there for maybe even 1 week, 1 month, 3 months of the year, but not really have it as your full-time home base and really just use it as a backup option, potentially not live there at all. A lot of these countries are now wanting to see that you have passive income, and a good majority of the countries in Latin America, I have seen, even just in the last year, have switched over completely to the model of wanting to see you have passive income. So, what do these countries consider passive income? Now, for the most part, these countries consider passive income to be one of two sources. So, if you are a course creator, that is not considered passive income in their mind. And I guess it truly isn't because it can come and go. So, the way that they view passive income is through dividends, through investments that you hold, and of course, you have to prove that you own those investments, or through rental income through a house, a property that you own, and you do have to own the deed to that property. So those are the two most prevalent ways that, in some countries there can be additional options, but those are the most two prevalent ways that I see in a lot of the countries now in Latin America specifically. They're wanting to use these two specific ways to qualify as having passive income. So if you have a salary, again, you're a course creator, or you have steady income coming in every month, and it could even be guaranteed income. But if it's not through one of those two options that I mentioned, most countries likely won't be accepting that as their proof of having passive income for your monthly income. Again, not in all of the countries in Latin America, but it is a trend that I am seeing increasingly. So that's one option to get residency. The other option, if you are looking for residency that I see becoming more prevalent in the future, is through real estate investment. So Colombia is a great example of this, where one of the primary residence categories is through purchasing real estate. And again, on January 1st of every year, when the minimum wage increases, same with Mexico, same with various other countries, the amount that you will have to invest in that property also increases. So, all of this to say, if you are interested in either getting a second citizenship or obtaining a second residency, now is the time. I know it's something that I always speak about, and it is really so important because if you look back even 2, 3 years ago, it was so much easier to obtain additional residencies and to work your way towards citizenship in a lot of these countries. But even just in the last 1, 2 years, we've seen a lot of changes where it's becoming increasingly more difficult, as I've previously mentioned, to qualify for these residency programs. And I absolutely foresee this changing and becoming increasingly more difficult in the future. So if you are interested in diversifying your options, whether it be in banking, in citizenship, in obtaining additional residencies, and that doesn't just have to be limited to 1 or 2 residencies, or if you are looking to actually move your life abroad, potentially move your business abroad, and to obtain a tax optimized company formation, there are various different countries depending on where you are in the globe, where your clients are, where your payment processors are. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but reach out to us below. We're happy to help you to establish a plan that works for you based on your specific business and your situation. You've just listened to the Work, Wealth, and Travel podcast. If anything from this episode resonated with you, I'd appreciate if you share this podcast on your socials. And of course, be sure to tag us at Work, Wealth, and Travel. And don't forget to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for joining us on this global citizen journey, and we'll see you in the next episode.